Okay, guys, welcome to the last unit for GMAW. This is about maintenance, repair, and troubleshooting. So this is going to be a pretty short presentation because a lot of this is stuff that we go over out in lab and actually do all this. So this is just more about how to troubleshoot, how to maintain, how to clean, do's and do nots. Okay, so the importance of proper maintenance of GMAW equipment, um, how to inspect the equipment for potential hazards, loose connections, frayed wires, all that good stuff. Demonstrate changing of the wire electrode at this point. We should have done the lab assignment where everybody simulates or actually does change out a spool of wire, where we break down the gun assembly and the drive roll system in the machine itself. So again, we've probably gone over all of this already. Uh, how important it is to have clean guns and clean machines, and how to change out the liner. We're not going to do the liner. We probably went over this in lab already. Okay, so when you're inspecting a piece of equipment, you should always have the power off before working on it. Lockout, tag out, we went over that in safety. Remember, this is that padlock and tag where you lock something out at the power. Okay, so breaker. And the only person that's allowed to remove that padlock is the person who signed it, the person who put it there in the first place. Okay, so if you ever see something that's been lockout tagged out, you just leave it alone. Uh, Going over the power source again, we kind of covered this in the last unit. This includes the gun liner, the contact tips, the shielding gas hose. That's the hose coming off the machine from the flow meter. In extremely dusty locations, you should always use low pressure compressed air to blow dust out of the machine. We do this at the end of every semester. You guys will, depending on the class you're in, might be responsible for doing that. But yes, every semester we blow everything out, get all the dust out. We try to keep these machines clean. So we should always be inspecting when we go out. Again, just a brief visual inspection of your cables, your electrode holder, your gun, your oxyfuel torch, your TIG torch, whatever it is you're going out in the lab to do. You should always give it a quick visual inspection before you start turning things on and using them. Uh, Having extremely frayed cables like this on your work clamp, you'll notice some of the clamps out there in the shop are super gray right here. Okay, typically that's from these getting frayed, or you've got the clamp on a surface that's not super clean, so it's working through the paint, and that adds a lot of resistance to the current in this location, and all that graying is from the excessive heat. So make sure you're putting your work clamp where it is clean, no paint, no rust. You want it on a clean spot so we have an easy flow of electrons through that circuit. Uh, Checking the flow meters, again, just like in the oxyfuel unit, you should always use soapy water or specific leak detecting fluid when you're detecting leaks. This will show you if you've got a loose fitting or a bad fitting, or maybe something internally here like a diaphragm is leaking, something like that. So always inspect with soapy water or leak fluid, which is, I don't know what it would be other than soapy water. As far as checking these when we got into the booths, if you're hearing a hiss or it's like noticeable that something's leaking, just let me know. We'll take care of everything else after that. So cleaning the liner. Again, depending on the class you're in, you might be doing this at the end of the semester. Basically, all you're doing is you're pulling off the gas nozzle, the contact tip, and the gas diffuser so that the liner is exposed, and you're just going to blow shop air through it. Uh, as the wire is fed through here, and you guys got to remember, there's multiple classes going through this program. So these things get a lot of use. There's a lot of wire that gets moved through these. As it moves through there, there's friction. Okay, that wire's sliding along this. So over time, you get a buildup of either that copper coating or just mild steel, just little bits of flakes of material, the kind of leftover residue, a lot of metal dust, and even just from being in the shop environment around the grinding and everything, they get dusty. And in order to keep that wire clean and smoothly fed through here, we got to clean them out every now and then. So we'll just get a little air nozzle, air gun, blow it through there, clean them out, and they should be good to go for another semester. Okay, so throughout the semester, throughout every lab, you should be checking your contact tip, your nozzle, and your diffuser. You should be pulling that off, making sure you don't have a bunch of spatter buildup in your gas nozzle, cleaning it, checking it. Is it deformed? Your contact tip, does that look clean? Does that look bent or nasty? Does it look like somebody made physical contact with the contact tip to the workplace? Maybe they thought they were SMAW welding with the MIG gun. And your diffuser usually is fine. Rarely do we have to replace that, but it's still good to just kind of check it with your finger, see if anything's loose, if anything needs to be snugged up. So after about 350 pounds of wire or electrode being fed through a liner, that is usually the recommended, maintenance schedule for, okay, let's clean it out now. Our liners have been pretty good. We blow them out at the end of the semester, but every now and then we do have to replace them. We usually replace them because a student or somebody kinks the liner or accidentally feeds a second wire through there and they get wedged. I cannot remember the last time I've had to replace the liner because it just got too dirty. So they last a long time if you take care of them. But every now and then you do have to replace them. And so to replace them, you would have to pull the gun assembly off like we did during that lab assignment. There's a set screw right there you would undo, and that liner would just come all the way out, and then you would replace it with a new one. Again, using air hose to gently blow out the cable liner. Too much pressure may cause a plug. So if you've got a lot of gunk in the liner and you send a bunch of air through there at once, a sudden high pressure, that can actually get them all stuck. So start off real slow. Okay, again, this is stuff that we've gone over out in lab already, so we'll just kind of blow through those. We've gone over this. We should have gone over this out in lab. This is, again, just how you would remove the liner, but we don't do that. There's that set screw I was talking about. You would undo that, and then this little nub right here is the liner. There's a little brass end to it, and then you would just pull that out this direction, whoop, 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 and it would just come out. Ba-ba-bum. And again, did this out in lab for that assignment, replacing the spool or simulating it at least. Everybody should have pulled the gun off, the spool of wire off, pulled apart the drive roll system. So we should all know exactly how to change our spools of wire at this point. Bum. Yeah. So told you this was going to be a quick one. Most of this stuff got taken care of out in lab with those few lab assignments that we did. So again, unit 6 and 7, they're a little, less content heavy, especially unit 7. So that's it for GMAW. So after this, we should be getting ready to gear up for the NC3 exam. All right, we'll see you in the next one.